Welcome, TLC family. Well, it is the season for Hallmark movies, right? The Christmas, happy ending Hallmark movies with the ooey gooey love story and the picture perfect family. And they're fun to watch, right? It's fun sometimes to not have a lot of drama and just look forward to the happy ending. But I want to, I've been thinking about the Hallmark family, the Hallmark movie family, and how it's all, so perfect. And we know when it comes to actual real life families that is not the case, right? Families are complicated and messy, and, relationships can be really challenging. And we know people aren't perfect, and so that's why there's no such thing as a perfect family. But if you come across a family that is maybe less dysfunctional than others, you can know that there's been work put in, right? There's been time and effort put into those relationships. And, we've been talking about love for so long in this unit, and I wanted to kind of wrap up our series, Just Because He Loves You, with talking about loving our families. We're heading into, of course, the Christmas holiday, and probably if you have kids, they're going to be off for the next 3 weeks or so. And so we're going to have all this time with families, and it's important that we let the love of God flow through us to our families as well. To make a family work, you have to be willing to put yourself out there and be open with each other. You need to demonstrate love even when you don't feel like it. You need to have open and honest conversations with each other. And this is the ultimate display of the love of God in action. Sometimes we can be like, yeah, I'm loving my enemies. And then we come home and we're biting our spouse's head off all the time, or, being grumpy with the kids. And this is really, the home, the family is sometimes the ultimate test of our love walk. But it can be a really exciting thing when we allow the love of God to flow, and your home and your family becomes a refuge, right? A place where you can come and know that there's people you can depend on, people who are going to encourage you even when maybe there's drama going on or conflict at work or different things. You can know that, the family is a safe place. And so developing our love walk when it comes to our families is not easy. I'm not going to say this is a piece of cake. No, it does definitely take putting your flesh under and forgiving and loving when, that's not the way you're feeling. But is something that you can do as a child of God. We've talked about how the love of God is on the inside of you, and the Holy Spirit, who is love himself, is on the inside of you, and you can let him flow. You can let that love flow and minister to your family, just like you would minister to a coworker or other people around you. We can really be sensitive to the Holy Spirit and allow him to minister to our family through us. And so I want to read you 1 Corinthians 8:1. It says, "Now concerning things offered to idols, we know that we all have knowledge. Knowledge puffs up, but love edifies." I'm going to read that phrase again. Knowledge puffs up, but love edifies. We know that knowing things and being right is not always the most important thing. You can be very right, and I value education and researching things, to back up your opinions and things like that. Like, I get that. I know that knowledge is not unimportant whatsoever, but if you're hurting everyone around you with your rightness, then you're truly wrong. If you feel like you always have to be the one to win the argument or win the conversation, you're definitely going to be hurting loved ones around you, because love trumps knowledge. And so, like the verse says, knowledge puffs up. Sometimes we get arrogant, or, we feel like we always have to win. But really, love seeks to edify. And edify means to build up and to encourage. And if we're thinking about, our family, this is definitely something that, we can exercise and we can grow in thinking about how to build up our spouse, how to build up our children and encourage them, instead of always just having to be the one in charge, the one who's always right, the one who, that's pride, right? It's being proud. And this is something that the Pharisees struggled with, right? They were always consumed with keeping the law perfectly and checking off their to-do list. And they missed it. They totally missed what Jesus was trying to teach them in loving people around them. They wanted to be right, but they missed love. And so, love edifies, it builds up, it encourages. This reminds me of Ephesians 4:15, which we've read before. It talks about speaking the truth in love. Like, what you are saying, of course, should be true, right? But it has to also be spoken in love. It has to minister grace to the hearers. It has to edify, it has to build up. And I think that this is a big area that we can really grow in when it comes to our families. Thinking about, what are we saying to them? And is it building them up? Is it something that is encouraging them and building them up? Or are we trying to just cut them down and we feel stressed, and so we're just being snippy all the time? I understand it. I understand that a lot of us are busy, and I am, very much, I err on the side of wanting to get things done instead of focusing on relationships. And that's a mistake, right? That's something in my personality that I have to kind of fight against. And, it's almost like I could be like, oh, yeah, I know I should say something nice to you, but I still have 5 things on my to-do list that I have to check off first before I can, give you your words of affirmation. And so I have to catch myself. And some of you might relate to this, right? Where we get busy and consumed with, I got to get this done and that done and this done. And no, I don't have time to give you attention and loving words right now. And we really miss that opportunity to build up our spouse. Pastor Luke, we've talked about love languages before. He's very much a words of affirmation guy. And he thrives on me like saying these kind things and, building up his ego almost in a sense, right? Like telling him how wonderful he is. And he is wonderful. Do I always take time to say that like I should? No. And that's a mistake, right? That's an opportunity missed to build him up and encourage him. And so I'm talking to myself just while I'm talking to you as well, because I know that this is kind of a trap that we fall into, is we focus so much on just the agenda and things that we have to do, instead of ministering that love and that encouragement to our spouse and to our kids. And so this is a daily walk to just slow down and really allow that love to flow. Thinking about our kids as well. And I know many of you probably have children, and if you don't yet and you're going to in the future, file this advice away, because you will definitely need it. But as our kids start to grow older and you have like teenage kids or adult children, you definitely have an opportunity to love instead of manipulate. And, we have this kind of this temptation of saying things and doing things to try to force a certain reaction or a certain decision out of our adult children or teenage children. And we may be totally right. Like, we may know, okay, the choices they're making are not correct, or the choices they're making may lead to heartbreak in the end or something like that. And so we try to manipulate the situation by maybe withdrawing our love, giving the cold shoulder, or saying, well, you can't stay in my house now, or, we stop talking and being open with them. And we try to, use maybe a bad attitude to manipulate their actions and their choices. And guys, that's not love. Love does not manipulate. I've learned so much from the story of the prodigal son, or the loving father, examining the father's reaction in that story that Jesus told to a son who messed up big time, right? Like, he was disrespectful. He wasted the father's money, his inheritance. And even when he came back to the father, it was with a wrong motive, right? He was just thinking about his own survival and, just working now and making enough to eat and survive on his own. And he didn't come back really with a repentant heart towards the father. He didn't ever apologize or anything that we know of in the story. But how did the father react, right? The father still ran to him. The father didn't cut ties with him or cut communication with him, but the father made it possible for the son to return, and welcomed him back, right? Even cut off the silly little speech that the kid was going to give, but welcomed him back with open arms, and accepted him, was excited to see him, showed him love, provided for him again. Even though the son had gone out and wasted the livelihood that the father had provided for him, the father provided more. And so I feel like as a parent, I've learned so much in what is really the God kind of love towards our children. Definitely it's long-suffering. Definitely it's patient. Definitely it doesn't give in to fear and try to manipulate the child, or, again, the adult child, but is patient and leaves the door open for them to return. I read this book, Pastor Luke and I read this book that was recommended by Aaron Hockaday. Many of you guys know Jim and Aaron Hockaday. And it was called How to Parent Adult Children, How to Keep Your Mouth Shut and the Welcome Mat Out. So basically, leave the door open for them to come. Don't be critical and judgy of every little thing they do or every little mistake they make, but instead leave the door open. I think about the prodigal son story again. I think about it, how if the father would have cut the son off and not accepted him back and not shown him the unconditional love, the son's life would have been destroyed, right? He had nothing to live on. He'd probably alienated, any friends or anyone else close to him. He had no one else to turn to. If the father hadn't have kept that door open and accepted the son back, the son would have been destroyed. And how sad is that, right? When the father had it in his ability to bring restoration to the son, to bring, forgiveness and help him get back on his feet after the big mistakes he had made with his life choices. Because the father was there, the son was restored, right? And he could have a life again. And that's just the love of God. Wow. He's so good to us. And the door is always open. Even when we fall flat on our face, he's there to love us and restore us. We saw that last week when we studied the conversation that Jesus had with Peter after Peter had denied him 3 times and then quit the ministry and was just throwing in the towel. Jesus came and provided for him and loved him and restored him back to that place, a position of prominence in ministry, and and just showed Peter how much he loves him. And so, I want to encourage you that Hallmark movie family that we see, may seem unrealistic and, silly and that kind of thing, but our own families can definitely grow in love and grow in building each other up and encouraging each other if we just let the love of God flow through us. So with that, just think about ministering to your family today, and you guys have a blessed day.